I'm always the guy who raises his hand because I never tire of the sound of my own voice. You know that. But no, I obviously you've noticed I've got a real bug up my ear about getting people trained properly for the VPE role and not kind of leaving them to wander in the darkness.
Yeah, because it could be easy to wander in this darkness.
Yes.
Yes. So I thank you for that. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I appreciate it too.
Yeah. We did have a VPE in the past who, after, I think after her entire year was up, and somehow, or I don't know, she didn't do much during that year. And after the year was up, the following year, she said, "Why didn't anybody tell me that I was supposed to be doing all this?"
No.
Well, why didn't you ask? And it was one of those, this is really frustrating moments. But, so the one thing that that Toastmasters has taught me is patience. Patience.
Absolutely. It is an open door organization and you don't know who's going to walk in.
Mm-hmm.
And good mantra, I learned it from a elementary school principal. That person is doing the best they can at their current level of development.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's always true. You can always say that about people. You can always mean it, and you can always mean it in a kind way. So,
right. Yeah.
But,
yes, but that goes along with delegation and responsibility. So if you know you can't do it, then hand it off and don't get so uptight about somebody, taking your job or.
No, I have had that issue just recently in my role as vice president of education, where somebody was overstepping, and doing more than he should do, taking away some of my authority
right
there. And so the first thing I did was get really angry. I sat down to write an email telling him exactly who's in charge around here. Got about halfway through and I thought, he did work for me. And so instead of trying to take control back, what I did was delegate more. As long as you've done this much, you could really help me out by taking on more of the task. He took on the rest of the task, actually did a great job. And so that was a win-win situation.
Mm-hmm.
I can't rely on everybody to do that. But in this particular case, it definitely worked out. But it takes maturity, which I don't always have. I look mature, but inside I'm still just a 12-year-old.
Well, you know what Henry Hyde said when he was he was in his 70s, and that story came out of him having an affair with a staffer or something, and I think that happened when he was 46 or something, and he called it a youthful indiscretion. Yes. So it takes a while to get mature, I guess.
Well, that actually gives me hope. I plan to live to 100. So anything I do now is still a youthful indiscretion.
Yes. It's very handy to keep that in mind. Yes.
It's funny.
Hey, Dennis.
Hi, Satish.
Hey.
How are you?
Hello.
Hi there. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
So I just spent a couple hours on that, making my agenda for the first time really in that Toast. I know. I have such a headache. But everything worked fine. It's just that there was, I guess there's not that any more different kinds of formats you can print it out in. It just makes everything so long because it's using so much, it's such narrow
Oh, yes,
space,
I noticed that. Yeah.
right? Is that, no, you can't do anything about that, huh? You can't like,
There's the standard and there's the hybrid.
yeah,
And I don't know if you can make your own, but the hybrid's nice because on the left side you have the officers all listed up, and yeah, ours usually comes out to 2 pages.
okay, see, well, this is like 4 or 5, 6 pages long,
What?
because we have a really detailed agenda. So I'm trying to convert this
Oh,
into
wow.
that, and
Did you say 4 or 5 pages?
yeah. But when we do
Wow.
it, when we do it this way with this old, this is this format, like we had like this. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We just get to, usually it's just front and back. We could put everything on front and back. But when I put it into that toast, it just made it super long.
Annabelle, what club are you with?
It's heart to heart.
Okay, yeah, that format looked familiar. I've been to the meetings. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you have a 2-part meeting, right? There's a recess in between.
Yeah, we have
a break.
A break, and then
Yeah.
because it's a once a month, so we meet for 2 hours. So.
Right. Yeah.
And I
But
had
flip
another
that
question
page.
too, Dennis. I had the new officers aren't in there, so when I'm looking at the side, it's showing the officers from the last term.
On the Toastmasters side?
Yeah, on that free toast host.
Oh,
Yeah. No, how do I connect them?
Someone has to update it on the Free Toast host site.
I don't know how to do
So
it.
Annabelle, you can go into membership management and update that. And
You have to
it'll
physically put it,
automatic.
not like on Toastmasters.org where it's already.
It's separate. It's
So I
separate.
have to fill them in. Okay. So where do I have to go to member? I mean.
So are you the site administrator?
Yeah.
Then you have the privileges to go in. There's a tab
You want
for membership management.
You want to share your screen?
Okay. Yeah.
We'll have to be sure that there's nothing that we're not giving away people's credit card numbers, but maybe we can all take a look.
No.
And Gia can help you.
I think I have to first go back in again and yeah. Okay.
So yeah, keep those and close, and then launch the admin console. And then you go to see where it says select a module, website settings. You pull it down and go to membership management.
Oh, and also our new members too. Do I have to go and enter those in by?
Yes.
Oh.
And so here,
okay.
Kim is still the president.
Yeah, Kimmy's
according to this.
Now I'm
she?
VP Education.
Who's the president? Okay.
Yeah, Kimmy.
Yeah, Kimmy. Yeah. Is she still the president?
Yes, and then I just have to check. Okay, I can go in and do these later. I don't want to.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, now I see. But then adding new members, I have to add those in there too.
Yeah. So you go to the very top of this page. Yeah, and there's a line that says new. No.
No.
Lower down.
Oops.
There it says new. You enter the name there, just above Kimi Avery.
Oh, right there. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, it's in there.
So you enter the name here, and then enter new info and click save.
Okay.
And so when you do this, the system's going to issue a very ominous email. It's an opt-in email.
Okay.
And so some people think it's spam and so you just have to let them know, look, I the system sent you a message, so just say yes, opt in, and then they'll get on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now I know what to do. I can stop there.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea to send a message before you add them in saying, hey, don't freak out. Here comes a message.
Because everybody's going to get that email?
The new member will.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Annabelle, if you want to, I can send you a copy of the message that
Okay.
we send out to people.
Sheila, do you want me to send you my email?
If you want to leave your yeah.
Here, I'll just put my email there in the chat just to privately to you.
Okay, got it.
Now, let me ask a question though. You are an advanced club and you meet once a month. That's correct. And Kimmy Avery, you say, is still your president. That means she was your president previously.
Yeah.
And
Wait, was she? Yeah.
So you elect your officers for a full year term because you meet once a month.
Yeah.
So there is an issue there. The president should not repeat year after year. So
President, maybe she was, I'm trying to think now, maybe Michelle was maybe she's just the president. No, she was president. Okay, she was president last year.
Yeah. So I'm not Toastmasters police.
Oh, I didn't
I'm
know
not
that.
here to record this and let everybody watch it later.
It is recording.
Recording buttons on. Okay, so what, a president's not supposed to run?
It's only 1 year.
2 years?
Yeah, so if you're a 6-month club, you elect officers every 6 months, the president can have 2 consecutive terms.
Oh.
But if you're a 1-year term, then you can only be president for a single year.
Maybe she was only 6 months so far? I don't know. Well, yeah, all right. I'll try to bring that up at our next executive officer meeting.
Just say that mean old grouchy Dennis Dawson said that you can't be a president for more than a year. And
I
then
think maybe she's only been 6 months. Maybe she's only been for 6 months. Oh no, I don't remember.
Hey Dennis, is it true though that they can alternate, right? If there are not too many members in the club, so 1 year.
Oh yeah, you can have a break. You just can't do 2 consecutive.
2
years.
consecutive.
Oh yeah, I don't think she's done that. Okay, yeah, I don't think she.
Yeah, I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble.
No, I want to know I need to know these things.
Yeah, it's something that a lot of clubs don't know this. I've got the same situation with a club in my area, where I'm the area director, and in that particular case, I think that it is not good for the club that they've had the president for a while. Not that there's anything wrong with the president, but you need to mix up the officers a little bit, and changing the president is a good way to change the tone and the just the way the club operates on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
Yeah, so
makes sense. Yeah.
That's why it's in the bylaws.
Oh, okay. Oh.
By the way, I've always learned new things with the club leadership handbook. Something that you might want to look at.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a really handy document.
Yeah, you've all read the club leadership handbook, I hope. Oh no, yeah, you want to read it cover to cover. If everybody would read the club leadership handbook, we wouldn't have to have TLI training. I mean,
no, but it's useful for reference.
What would we have you do then all that time that you would be saving?
I could be giving humorous speeches. I could be dancing for your pleasure, but no, instead I have to come in here and talk about silly Toastmasters rules and stuff.
Yeah.
So Annabelle, I offered that only because whenever I was in doubt, I would go back to the club leadership handbook.
Yeah.
It's a really handy thing to look at. And
Okay.
maybe all the officers also can look at that. It's useful, especially for the officers to be familiar with it. So.
Thank you.
Well,
yeah. Good.
All of the officers should read all of the officer roles. The whole book is less than 80 pages. So, it's great bedside table reading. You read that for an hour, you'll be asleep, before you know. But
guaranteed.
The best thing about the leadership handbook is that it has a timeline for the year. And for every officer, it tells you what you should be doing each month.
Yeah.
So right now, the club should be working on their club success plan. If they haven't already started that. And it tells you right there in the timeline. You say, well, club success plan, what do you mean? And it tells you where to go, find the club success plan, fill it out, and it tells you why you need to do it.
I hate this. I ask this, but is it on Toastmasters.org?
It is. It is.
Okay.
All these things are on for free, available. The one thing that really helped me with the club leadership handbook is sometimes you assume that somebody should or shouldn't. You're not very clear, right? As an officer, so you don't even know if a particular officer should be doing a particular role or not. Like something like VP membership versus VP. Let's see which one, VP PR or somebody like that, right? What happens when a new member comes in? So, these kinds of things is clearly defined in the club leadership handbook as to who does what and when and how. So I always go back there. It really helps the officers function much more efficiently, and so can hold each other kind of accountable. So
no overstepping. Good.
Without overstepping, that's the key, right? So
or doing things twice or
whatever, or expecting something that is not in the not there.
Well, I just had this discussion yesterday when I was teaching the VPE class. Yeah, I don't know if I've talked about it here. If I'm repeating myself at any time, you can say, when I was in university, I had a professor come in. He was absolutely one of my favorites. And he was doing a lecture. And at first we thought he was doing a recap, but when he got about 15 minutes into it and told the same joke he'd told the previous week, we realized that he was giving us the same lecture.
Oh, no.
He was in his 70s, so it really embarrassed, it really hurt his feelings that we let him go that long, but it was out of respect and love that we did that. So out of respect and love, please tell me not to repeat myself too much. But the thing I didn't want to repeat myself on is in one of my clubs, there was a rule that we were not allowed to talk about bedroom, barroom, bathroom, or politics. So no sex, no religion, no politics, and nothing that you would hear in a barroom. And I said, where does this come from? They said, it's in the Toastmasters Promise. I said, really? That's odd. And so, yeah, they showed me number 11 on their Toastmasters Promise, no bedroom, barroom, bathroom, or politics.
Oh, wow.
I said, well, that isn't the Toastmasters policy. Okay. Do all of you know which speech topics are proscribed that you're not allowed to talk about in Toastmasters?
Vaguely.
Okay, and what are they, Elizabeth?
I believe we shouldn't talk about politics and religion. That's what I recall we discussed.
Okay.
Oh.
Any others?
Good.
Okay.
Those are the two I remember.
Yeah, so here's the actual rule in Toastmasters. In Toastmasters, you can talk about anything. Anything. There are absolutely no prescribed topics in Toastmasters. Clubs can vote to have a particular rule. So at some point, that club of mine might have voted in this 11th commandment, all right? But when I joined the club, and I started asking about it, it turned out only one person in the club actually was a proponent of the rule. Everyone else hated it. You know why? Because if you ever mentioned anything that might have touched on something like that, this old guy would take out his evaluation form and he'd write you a note. You're not allowed to talk about sex. So a woman gave a speech where the cat jumped into the bathtub with her. You're not allowed to talk about bathroom topics,
Oh, no.
So we, using Robert's rules, parliamentary procedure, we had a debate and then we voted on whether to continue to use this rule. And it was unanimously voted down because he chose not to show up that meeting.
So Dennis, we can talk about anything. It's just the club has to decide if it's as a group.
Yeah, the club has to vote on a rule.
Okay.
And this has got to be recorded someplace.
Oh.
Where the secretary.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so this is something you want to check with your club, and it could very well be that it is in your club's records that they have chosen not to allow certain topics.
I think we voted, yeah. But somebody did give a speech where it was very adult oriented about when he was dating and was very detailed. And there were a few people who were, can we talk about that? I said, well, we're over 18, so yeah.
That's right. We're all adults, but
Yeah.
just because you're allowed to talk about anything, that is no excuse and no reason to get up and be vulgar, off-putting, talk about things that are going to make people want to leave the club.
Right.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we are absolutely allowed to talk about anything, but we need to know how to have a civil discussion and talk about things. If we can talk about things in a sexual way, or I should say of a sexual nature, but it shouldn't be lurid and shouldn't be vulgar
Mhm.
or obscene.
Right. No, our member was not, he was very, very clean about it. He was just talking about when he was young and when he was dating and didn't use any particular words. It was a very PG-13, but yeah, there was a few people that were, we could talk about that. I was like, yeah, we can. So,
Right.
okay.
And one of the funny things about this is when people say, oh my, you know, and they start fanning themselves and they get all Lindsey Graham on you.
That's what happened.
Yeah. And then you ask them, well, are you personally offended? And they would say, well, not me. I'm worried about other people being offended.
Mm.
Yeah. And so generally that's the case. Nobody's individually, you know, going to faint. Nobody has the vapors.
Nobody fainted.
Yeah.
No, yeah, we were caught off guard, but nobody was personally offended. But we were looking at each other like, we could talk about those things. And then we did have a discussion like, yeah, we can, but just for a courtesy, just a heads up. And now going forward, we say, heads up, this is PG-18 but everyone's fine. But it was just funny that we just looked at each other like, we could say those, we could talk about that. It was funny, and it wasn't vulgar. He was just being very honest, but yeah, it caught us off guard.
But you see, that actually sounds like it was a very interesting speech. And it sounds like
It was very interesting. He was dating in the 70s when he first started going to the discos. And I mean, we were all interested, but yeah, he just got into details. I'm like, oh.
well, mostly you don't want to see an old guy like me talking about that. We're
Well.
in the disco. Yeah. That's my generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dennis, along those lines, I have a question. For speech contests, or I guess for any speech. So if there's a speech that that makes people uncomfortable, not because, let's say it just perhaps it's unwittingly bordering on insensitive cultural remarks, racial, etc. How's that handled? Uh, and I'm just thinking back to one area contest where a person gave a speech and I felt a little uncomfortable of the way in which this speech, I thought it bordered on racial stereotyping. And I didn't say anything. It's something that I've since wondered how Toastmasters handles those things.
Well, the first question I have is, did that speech win the contest?
It did.
Oh,
Wow.
And in the end, that person did not go to the next level, which I'm not quite sure whether it was because it turned out that someone in the club they didn't meet the minimum criteria, or he hadn't paid up something. So this person did not go to the next level.
And the level you're talking about is the club level.
To what's after area? Division?
Division. So
Yeah.
they competed at the area contest with a speech that bordered on racial insensitivity, and won.
Or it felt, yeah. But then maybe I'm the one who's being sensitive about it. I don't know.
I kind of doubt it. I wouldn't put this entirely on you. Here's the thing about speech contests. The judges in our contests are just normal Toastmasters, POTs as we call them, plain old Toastmasters. And you would hope that they would have an elevated consciousness. You would hope that they would be able to smoke out things that are less likely to win at higher levels. But unfortunately, especially at the area level, sometimes you're lucky to have 3 judges. You're supposed to have at least 5, but sometimes it's just hard for some reason to get enough judges. When you've got that smaller number of judges, it's very easy for somebody to win because you've got an outlier judge who takes an offensive speech and says, yeah, right on. I agree with all of those racist policies. You're first place. And this other touchy-feely guy, oh, I hated his speech, and doesn't place him. All right. Now that one person gives 3 points to somebody who shouldn't win, 0 points to somebody who should win. When you get 3 judges, that completely skews the results. That's how this can happen sometimes. So when you are planning your club contest, my recommendation at the club level, you have the Toastmaster, you have the contestants, you've got the sergeant at arms. Everybody else is a judge and fills out the judging form to get as many votes as you possibly can. The more votes you have, the more likely you're going to smooth out the results, and you're going to screen out that kind of outlier who goes on when they really shouldn't. Ideally, then when you go to the area level, you're going to have, well, certainly a judge from each area. When you get to the division level, it gets a little tricky because the only people who want to come to the contest are people who have got club members in the contest, but you're not allowed to be a judge if you've got a club member in the contest. So then you have to really dig around to be sure that you've got 7 to 9 judges at that division level. Because the more you have, the more likely you're going to have a winner who will go on to win. And that's why at the district level, you have to have 15 judges.
I think it's an issue or topic that's gonna come up more as, you know, we're in a place where we're facing a reckoning of sorts.
Yes.
And perhaps more people are becoming conscious. And we try and do the best. Sometimes we trip over ourselves in doing that. But
well, there's some very obvious terms. We at Autodesk, we just got rid of slave and master. So you have a master server and slave servers that work with it. So it's host and secondary, or whatever else we do. That one's obvious. Whitelisting and blacklisting. Whitelist is external entities that can access your internal services. If you blacklist them, they can't. Okay, so we got rid of whitelist and blacklist. But we got rid of redlining. Now I thought redlining, but what the heck? I mean, I use red lines when I'm editing documents all the time. Why would redlining be wrong? Come to find out that the origin of the term is that they used to redline areas around neighborhoods with African Americans and draw a red line around that. And that was to let investors know that they shouldn't invest there. I had no idea where that term came from.
It's a real estate term, I believe.
Yeah.
In urban areas.
Yes, it's a very offensive real estate term.
Yeah.
And so now that I know that, yeah, I absolutely agree. We won't talk about redlining anymore.
How would you use it in work?
to designate an area that was off limits in some way.
Yeah, we actually use it with legal contracts even today. Dennis, I had no idea.
Yeah.
We use it all the time, saying, "Hey, have you redlined the contract?"
That's interesting. I have heard our legal department say that we're going to redline this language, or that's
But
interesting.
that's used for like editing marks, right?
Yeah.
That red line. I mean, Dennis, you're at Autodesk, and yeah, I'm a landscape architect, so I use AutoCAD, and do plans, and we redline them to create as-builts, and
Yeah.
But I've never put the two together, or.
Same here.
And did we discuss here already that in my clubs we have started using the word leader instead of word master, topics leader instead of topic master?
Oh,
Really?
no, you hadn't told us that. Oh.
Yeah,
Did
the
not
only
get
one
that memo.
yeah. Well, no, this is just within my club. It's something that I can't remember. I'm the one who suggested it for those roles, but someone else mentioned one
There's
role.
Daniel. I did that as Toastmaster. I said word master, and I was corrected as word leader. So yeah.
Oh no, I'm talking about we've actually been trying to make this change and trying to get it into the agendas and everything for a few weeks. Anyway, when you talk about the Toastmaster, that's a different sense of master. You're mastering the toast. You're showing mastery. So that makes sense. But when you talk about the word master, the topics master, now it's more like the school master, a person of authority who's running a part of the meeting. It's a different sort of connotation. It's a different feeling to it. So if you don't have to have the word master, you can have the grammarian. You don't have to have the topic master. You can have the topic leader. And any place that we can, we're replacing it, except for Toastmasters itself. Yeah, and so we've kind of rationalized that. And I think that's a discussion that we will probably continue to have within the organization for some time to come.
Did you get any feedback in your club, Dennis, about changing the words?
Oh, yeah. 100% agreement once we mentioned it.
There was no pushback saying this has gone too far and it's too much right now and everything's being changed.
You're all politically correct, and what's the matter with
Yeah.
I'm fortunate in that, strange as it may sound, my clubs are really diverse. I'm the token white guy in my clubs. I'm the only old guy with a beard. I used to say, Toastmasters isn't just an organization with old fat guys with beards. As a joke, because when I joined Toastmasters, it was just old fat guys with beards. But that has definitely done a complete flip-flop over the past decade. I would say most of our new members, English is their second language. What better place to bring them in and get these fantastic points of view. People talking about what their homeland was like and the challenges they overcame to come to the U.S. and have this opportunity. It certainly makes me grateful that I happen to drop in the place where I happen to fall completely at random. Yeah, great learning opportunity for old people like me.
We're fortunate to have
Sorry,
you,
I
Dennis.
have to go. Sorry, but thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks for
Yeah,
showing up.
thank you.
Hey, bye-bye.
Yeah, my kids are reminding me that we have to go biking with them. So I'll head out to Dennis. Thank you again. All right.
Thanks for dropping in.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks everyone. Cheers.
Dennis, can I ask you one more question? We kind of touched on it at the last meeting that we had here. And I mentioned last time that we had one member that doesn't know how to mute themselves, and it kind of continues, but we've been working on that. He became the secretary of the club, and he does the agendas. And if he doesn't see any of the rules, he just puts himself in it. And we've been trying to explain that's not how it works. um, and we try to delicately explain, but he's easily offended, and we don't want to not have him be the secretary because he'd be offended. We're kind of running out of ideas on how we can approach. We don't want him to do the agenda, and we're trying to. So the person that does the agenda, it should be the vice president of education. Am I right about that?
It is,
Okay.
yeah, it's
And so I suggested to the club president, I said, well, my understanding is that I should be doing the agenda. So let's look at the rules and we could come up and say, the rules say, Elizabeth should be doing the agenda. She's the vice president of education. So we're going to talk about that next week, but we've got to figure out a way how to do it delicately because he got highly offended last week when we were telling him, you've got to mute yourself on the phone and we're not trying to shut you down. We just need you to mute yourself. So taking the agenda away from him is going to be something where we have to tread very lightly.
yeah, when you say he signs himself into roles, is he signing himself into like the Toastmaster or general evaluator or something?
Right. Like, for example, if he's the Toastmasters, he says, well, I saw the agenda was half empty. We needed a word master, so I filled myself in with that. And it's like, no, we log in early so that whoever shows up, we assign the roles. We try to do it a week ahead of time. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And when it doesn't, then yeah, people graciously will say, oh, I'll take, all counter, I'll take timer. But if he sees it empty, he'll just put his name in. I'm like, oh, so
Well,
we've tried to explain, don't do that.
are you saying he puts himself in for multiple roles?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, definitely. He gets to choose one. And then if everybody shows up and nobody wants the role, you're going to gratefully accept his assistance in having him do multiple roles. That's
Right.
And you want to thank him for his service. We appreciate that you've been doing the agenda for all this time, but you've learned some new tricks from fat old Dennis.
Well, the rules say, that's what we were trying to figure. If the rules do show, and I'm going to pull up the book, it should be me doing the agenda, pulling out.
Well, and this is, I want to be sure you put the right spin on it. You're responsible for the agenda.
I'm responsible for the agenda. Okay.
That doesn't mean that you necessarily have to do it, but you definitely assign the roles or have a protocol in the club where the roles are assigned. Okay, there are rules to it. You either do it or you pass that along. You create the agenda or there are rules to how the agenda is created. Now, so it sounds like traditionally the secretary has done it.
The secretary has done it traditionally because she was very tech savvy, and she's the one that got us on Free Toast Toast and got us up and running on online. But she stepped away from the role, and this gentleman stepped up. Very nice, kind gentleman, older gentleman, but he's very lost, and it's like, oh, so we're trying to be very delicate about. And I did tell the president, I said, I believe I'm responsible for the agenda, so let's approach it that way. It's Elizabeth's responsibility to do the agenda. Let's give her an opportunity. But we've got to figure out a way how we're going to tell him that. Because honestly, we were hoping he wouldn't run for a role. And I have a feeling a few people have not come back because of him. He's nice, but he's very, he interrupts. He doesn't mute himself. He speaks over people. I'm like, ugh. So we're trying to approach this in a delicate way.
Yes. Well, what you have there is what is commonly known as a club killer.
Yeah.
Oh.
And he's a nice guy, but it's just, oh my God. I think we believe there's two members that just stopped coming because there's always an interruption or someone's in the middle of the speech and he gives feedback. It's like, oh, what happened to me? I'm like, oh, he's giving a speech.
Oh, no.
And we remind people, please mute yourself. Please don't speak when we're presenting. We've done that. He's gotten better, but yeah, the poor president had a meeting Friday with the officers, and it was a disaster. He got offended because we said you need to mute yourself, and he thought we were trying to shut him down. I'm like, oh my God.
No.
So yeah, we're trying to come up with a plan.
Is he a member?
He's a member. He's been a member for a couple years, and in the first year, it was a little rough because, yeah, like I mentioned, he would interrupt people's speeches, and then we would have to explain, please, let them give speeches, and he's gotten better with that. But now he's a club officer as a secretary because he really kept pushing for that. It's like, if people vote for you, and they did because he wanted it.
Mm.
So yeah, we were hoping he wouldn't run, but the nice guy is just we're a little handful.
Let's be clear. Nobody joins with the idea, I'm going to come in and destroy this club.
Right, correct. No, we get that. Yeah, that's why we're trying to handle it diplomatically with kindness. We're trying.
Yeah. Let me finish the thought, though. He didn't join with the idea, I'm going to kill this club. However, those are the people that can kill your club. They're people who think that they are the saviors of the club, that they're the only ones who do things right. And nobody minds when I interrupt them. I don't know why you guys are getting so uptight about that. I don't know why people think these thoughts, but they do. And there is a tendency in Toastmasters to always be compassionate, always be kind, always do your very best to help the people who are doing the very worst in your club. And there does come a point, and we talked earlier about the fellow who was really insistent on enforcing the rule about no bedroom, bathroom, barroom, or political topics. We had to change that because the way he was approaching that was ruining the club for the rest of the members. And so when it comes down to a choice between one person's feelings and whether 30 people are going to continue coming to meetings, sometimes you have to take this person out of the equation. Now, we didn't vote him out of the club, but when we changed that rule, he was convinced that that would be the downfall of the club, that it was going to be a den of iniquity. Everybody was going to talk about, brothels and all kinds of horrible things, and the club would fail almost immediately, right? So he quit. Well, we're still going strong, and you know what? Absolutely nothing has changed about the kinds of speeches that people are giving. Yeah, they still talk about any topic they like, but they do it in a civil way that is appropriate for a breakfast club, and everybody's happy. Nobody's getting a nasty gram from it. So when you have somebody like this, you want to work with them, and things that you can do are to you can make him the mute monitor. So it's not just that he's making sure that he's muted himself, that everybody is staying muted and respectful. You can ask him if there's some other task that he can do that's a special task for him, similar to the odd counter, but he's the official one who does that. He could be the tech host for your club, who's responsible for making sure that the Zoom aspect of the meeting runs well. It doesn't matter if he's very good at it, okay? Because everybody else, it sounds like the rest of the people in the club are good. So he would then have to focus more on doing his technical stuff properly because he's the one who's responsible for the entire club. So there are little tricky things that you can do to give people prestige and let them save face while you're having them step back. But sometimes people are just, for whatever reason, they aren't wired the same way as the rest of the club. Now, in some cases, there was one particular conflict I remember between a secretary and the president. The president was a professional young woman, and the secretary was kind of a hippy-dippy older man. And they were just at loggerheads all the time about all kinds of things. And I actually, as the district governor, went up and sat down with them in kind of an intervention And did the now, when you have a conflict like this, the first thing you do is have one person tell you all of the things that is upsetting that person, and then you have the other person write it down. Just keep a list, not respond. Just write everything down. Then they repeat that list back to the first person. Okay, and the other person doesn't respond except to clarify.
Mhm.
No, that's not exactly what I meant. And so once you're absolutely certain that the first person has expressed themselves and the second person has listened, you switch roles. Now this person gets to say all the things that are upsetting to them. The other person takes notes and repeats them back. Now,
Mhm.
99 out of 100 times, just that process ends the conflict.
Wow.
Just doing that, it's over. Because the problem is people think they're not being heard. They think they're not being listened to.
Mhm.
And once they know that they've been heard, that I mean, it's hugs time, tears. Everybody's happy. Yeah, kumbaya. Everybody gets along because they really didn't understand.
Mhm.
If they understood the other person, they can see that they're both working toward the same goals. That's great. 1 in 100 times, they get angrier. And at that point, it's time for someone to leave. Now, in this case, the hippy dippy guy left. He went to Andisha Toastmasters, which is a hippy dippy Toastmasters club that we all love. They are great. It's a great club, but they do like to talk about spiritual topics and things along that line. He fit in perfectly, just like a glove. And that was great. So that was one particular. And by the way, they were just up the street from this club. Everything's great. It is absolutely vital that you vote new members into your club.
Mm.
It makes for a nice ritual,
Right.
a nice ceremony. It makes people feel a sense of belonging. At San Jose Toastmasters, when we install a new member, we have them recite the Toastmasters promise one line at a time. Actually, we read it to them and they say, I will, I will, I will.
Mhm.
But the whole club promises that they're going to help that person with their communication and leadership skills. We will.
Mhm.
Nice. Now, once you've voted somebody in, you know what you can do? You can vote them out. And if you've got someone like you're talking about, someone who is disrupting the club, a club killer, and you've tried every method you can think of. I gave you a couple of ideas, you can still try. But if he continues to drive members away, you can have a vote.
Mm.
Ask him to step out of the room. Just as we vote people into the club, you can vote them out. But if your club does not habitually vote people in, you're stuck. You can't vote someone out if they were not voted into the club. We're a nonprofit organization. If you try and kick somebody out that wasn't voted in, they can sue Toastmasters International for
Really?
big bucks.
Wow.
Yeah, we don't vote, so we're stuck.
Yeah, we don't vote either. So I guess it's for specialty clubs, they vote, right?
Yeah, we do that.
Oh,
Well,
you do that?
well, we did the voting in.
Now,
You
every
approve? Oh, wow.
We
yeah,
did recited everything Dennis said.
that's
But sometimes members get, but sometimes you miss somebody. Somebody might have come in and you kind of forget. Because we had a group of them, so we had a bunch of them to do at one time.
well, and I say you habitually vote them in. If one person doesn't, but habitually you do vote people into the club, then that's fine. If you miss somebody, because it was a mistake, but generally you follow that policy.
Mhm.
One thing that you can do to correct the situation is to go into your club and say, hey, everyone, we have forgotten a very important rule that we have to vote everyone into the club. Today, I elect all of you to be members of this club. Any objections? No.
Yep. Mhm.
Yay, we're all members of the club. And that's a way that you can correct it now after the fact.
And that's in the laws, and that's something that I could pull up in the book.
You should be able to do that in the
Leadership.
yes.
Okay.
Well, no,
That
club bylaws.
bylaws.
Uh, you go up to the Toastmasters.org website,
Mhm.
and that's where the real, the 60-page club rules
For
document.
insomniacs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a last resort because that's this is a very nice person, but we are getting to that point like we need to. And I did recommend today. I pulled the club president aside, and I said, one other suggestion is have one-on-one club meetings, or not in lieu of club meetings, have one-on-one with the officers. Just checking in with us as a president. You could check in with us. This way, we don't include that one person, and we could speak freely. Because that's what happens is that she has a club meeting with the club officers and we can't speak freely, but we all want to talk about that one person. So
Yeah, I'm fortunate in that since I don't have any friends, I typically will speak freely if necessary. But that doesn't work for everybody. I know that.
those are good ideas. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I have seen the alternative. There was one club that it was a specialty club that was going great, and then it started losing members. And we're saying, wow, what could possibly be going wrong with this club? And we come to discover actually a past district governor was the club killer in this case. Between him and a particularly odd individual, they were just making the meetings excruciating for the people coming. They would give long, very boring talks that weren't based on the lessons in the Toastmasters manual, that were kind of inappropriate for the advanced club. And rather than confront them or deal with them, people just vote with their feet. They just left. Because why am I going to pay extra money and go to a special club if it's just going to be listening to these guys drone?
Mm.
And then people came into, this is when I was district governor, they came into the district executive committee meeting and saying, how can we save this club? What are we going to do? And following Daniel Rex's lead, I'd say, why are we trying to save this club? This club needs to die.
Mm.
It needs to have a stake driven right through its heart. These guys go elsewhere and stop harming people and stop bringing down the Toastmasters organization by what they're doing. Yeah, the problem is when you've got a really seriously diseased club like that, where one person has been allowed to kind of grow like a cancer and ruin it for everybody,
Mm.
turning that club around really means getting rid of all the members.
Mhm.
Everybody is kind of tired of it at that point. If you're going to go in and get rid of all the members, why don't you just start a fresh new club?
Yeah.
It's the same thing and actually easier in a lot of cases. So yeah, I've got a couple of people that I've been talking with, their area directors, and they talk about clubs that have been sick for as long as I've been in Toastmasters, back when I was district governor. And they say, well, what do we do? What do we do to save this club? And I said, the best thing you can do is start 2 new clubs.
Mm.
That way you're going to make up for them if they go away, and you'll get your credit as the area director for having a net gain of 1 club. Starting 2 clubs is easier than trying to fix a club that's been seriously broken.
Mm.
Toastmasters was invented. Yep, so that goes for members, it goes for clubs, and it actually even goes for areas.
Mm.
You want to be careful not to, that, you'll hear this from teachers all the time. They've got a classroom of 30 students. One of them takes most of their time
Mhm.
because that child is disruptive. And we want everybody to have opportunities. We want
Mm.
everyone to have the same education. But you can't sacrifice 29 kids because one of them has behavioral issues.
Right.
And that's a lesson that needs to be learned.
Mhm.
Good point.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for sharing all those cases. I've never, in our club, I'm so lucky that we don't have any members like that. But I feel like these are good strategies to learn in case one day we have a member like that. It is tough. It is a higher level of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And you can actually, very early on, nip it in the bud just by having a frank conversation. Uh,
Right.
when I see the way others are reacting to your
Mm-hmm.
interruptions, it makes me worry that you're making the experience less pleasant for the other members. What do you think about that?
Mm-hmm.
And instead of confronting them, let them tell you what's going on, why they believe it's important for them to interrupt. And
Right.
you might learn something.
Mm-hmm.
And, most of the time, when you ask them to evaluate their own behavior, they will have to concede.
Mm.
They could step it up for the benefit of others.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, we have a good club. It's a good mix. We're very supportive. Our club started in San Francisco and our company moved to Pleasanton. So we've been around since 1975. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it just keeps going with new members, new leaders, and this current president, she's really trying really hard to be very diplomatic, and we have a good team. It's just, and this one person that's disruptive is he's a kind person, but he doesn't realize that he's disruptive. So he does get it sometimes. I'm like, ah. So this meeting we had today, he wasn't disruptive, but he didn't unmute himself, but he didn't interrupt. So one step at a time, I guess.
Or do you want to do like at the beginning of the meeting, announcing some basic rules?
Oh, we do. We do that.
You do that all the time?
We've been doing
And
that.
that
Yeah.
doesn't help. Hmm.
It's starting to click in, I think. I think after last Friday's disastrous club officer meeting, because he was upset. We were trying to just say, please mute yourself. He thought we were trying to tell him, you need to be quiet, don't talk. And so I think the club president pulled up aside and said, that's not what we're saying. You need to mute yourself so we can hear everybody. So I think he's catching on.
It's still a big learning experience too, just doing this Zoom thing. So people are
Yeah.
It is
having
different.
to learn new things.
One thing that you could also do is if he is being disruptive in the middle of someone's speech, and this is something you should discuss with the whole club, that you, uh, someone, the president most likely, perhaps the sergeant at arms, because they're the ones who are supposed to handle disruptions,
Mm-hmm.
says, excuse me, speaker, would you please pause for a moment? Someone has got their uh, microphone open. Would everyone please mute so that we can hear the speaker?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, make a big deal about stopping it.
Mm-hmm.
And that way, if they then refuse, of course, your sergeant at arms should be trained and be a co-host of the meeting so that they can mute all,
Mm-hmm.
be able to mute the individual people. But yeah, if you make a big show of it when it happens, you only have to do that a couple of times before people really get the thing.
Yeah, no, he interrupted me 2 weeks ago and I actually stopped because I was so mad. And I don't normally get mad, but I just stopped. And the president did point that out. She says, I'm so glad you stopped. And, because he does, he apologizes. Oh, I'm sorry. And I'm like, okay, I'll forgive you for the 500th time.
Another way to do it, I remember when I was probably 18 or 19 years old, was visiting a friend's house. His father happened to be a psychologist. And we were having a good old time watching the premiere of the old Battlestar Galactica show.
Oh, wow.
Sitting there, and we were, woo, yay, the whole thing. And his father just got up and left the room. And he did it in such a way that I turned to my friend and I said, wow, did he do that because of me? He went,
Oh, oh, yikes.
yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah.
I absolutely shrunk.
Oh.
And so, yeah, just if you had said, all right, I'm finished, and sat down, that would be another way to shame. No, no, thank you. Thank you. I can't speak in this sort of environment. So I appreciate everybody wanting me to continue, but this time I'm going to stop.
Okay.
That's a good suggestion.
Tips.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Most of my suggestions are based on my bad behavior of the past. Well, I can't believe we have come to the end of the last hour.
Oh no! I know I'm gonna have questions.
Oh,
Going
did you
forward.
start at 6:30? Oh, I thought it was 7.
Oh,
I was really late. Sorry about that.
no, it was great. I'm just pleased that we were able to have a conversation. We talked about all new stuff tonight.
Yeah, every time we learn new things.
I know. I
Mhm.
appreciate it, Dennis.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Dennis. Very helpful.
Yes. And also, you're posting the video, the recording, right? You already posted the, I only attended the first, not the second, the third one. I'm going to watch the videos.
Great. Yeah, and maybe we'll do something quarterly.
Mhm.
Bring
That's
everybody back.
Good idea. Yeah.
That would be helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you. If
VPE
you're
is
able to do
really a
that.
challenge. It's really a challenging job, right?
Mhm.
Just to fill the meeting roles, I
Yeah.
struggle every time, every week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. We can exchange good ideas.
Also, I love that link that you sent us that shows us all the paths in those charts. That was really nice. I didn't know that existed.
Yeah, I got that sample chart.
That is great. to have
Tracing
around.
tracing progress, meeting notes, meeting attendance. I'm going to use that to develop our own.
Yeah, if you come up with any new things that you don't see in my helpful links, definitely send them along. You know, I'll just add them in.
Thanks. Okay, good.
Yeah, don't feel that because I'm stopping these sessions that you can never contact me.
Okay.
Obviously, this is my hobby. This is what I geek out about. There's nothing I like more than talking about Postmaster's junk. So absolutely, send me an email. We can have a Zoom and solve all of your problems. Yeah, that's what I'm here for.
Great.
That'll be very helpful.
Yes. Super helpful. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll see
Thank
you
you.
in the district.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Bye.
so much, Dennis.
Bye.
Bye.